Hi guys, welcome back. This week has just really been frustrating to watch the news. I hope that you all don't watch the news. I try not to watch the news, but today's discussion is going to be about red flag laws. Not only what they are, but the concerns that you should have as a private citizen, your right to bear arms, your rights as a veteran, all of those sorts of things, and basically why they don't work. And you can say whatever you want. I suspect that probably if you're in our community that you will most likely agree with my points. If you're not within the community, I have nothing but respect for the opposite opinion, but respectfully, you are absolutely wrong. Absolutely wrong. There is no doubt about it in my mind. So let's take the first and simplest issue, is that it is a civil liberty, a constitutional right to own a firearm. Therefore, by utilizing red flag laws, we are violating people's constitutional rights. I love the Second Amendment constitutional carry law that we've passed in Oklahoma, but it's basically just a repeat of the Second Amendment as a whole. It should not even be necessary, but I am glad that we have it because it will provide us with extra protections. So let's first talk about the fact that the people who fill out the paperwork are not of a qualified professional level to even make assumptions about people's mental health. And we should start with the fact that the folks who can file the initial paperwork for a red flag law, dependent upon your state, includes employers, coworkers, teachers, family members, and unfortunately for a lot of veterans, crazy ex-wives who are either going to be very mad at you after you get divorced or are already very mad at you and disgruntled after you've gotten divorced. So you have to remember that not every person who files that piece of paper is doing so out of the goodness of their hearts. It will absolutely be manipulated, and your mental health will be manipulated so that they can have benefit. While we don't have red flag laws in Oklahoma, I have most definitely had veterans who their crazy ex-wives have used their service connection and their mental health diagnosis against them for custody or divorce, for issues that don't have anything to do with their mental health. They manipulate information all the time. The second major issue when it comes to the paperwork and the filing piece is that if our justice system is already overwhelmed, we lack something, or we actually have something like a quarter of the amount of prosecutors that we need in the U.S. We lack something about 75% of the prosecutors that we need in the U.S. to actually keep up with what we have. So there again, we are overloading the system. Judges have zero mental health training. They don't have any classes. They don't have a license. They simply read the paperwork that is put in front of them. And that's a flaw of the system. Why? Because again, this law is completely a violation of your constitutional rights. Judges are not equipped to make mental health decisions. They're equipped to make a whole lot of other decisions. They are not equipped to make mental health decisions, not when it comes to people and carrying firearms. The other concern is the verbiage. In some states, it says a potentially dangerous person. Well, that's vague and ambiguous enough that even grandma could be a potentially dangerous person. An 8-year-old is a potentially dangerous person. So what does that really even mean? It means they can use it however they want. So if you're a stable person who is gainfully employed and raising a family or whatever that may be, and you get ticked off at your boss, you could be a potentially dangerous person. In Oklahoma, when we use emergency detention orders, there is very specific language, and the language reads something like an immediate physical risk. Presents and has evidence of violent behavior, is a substantial threat to self or others. And you have to be able to document that within a certain time frame, generally the past 24 hours. And so this is not something where 2 months later you can say, well, he threatened me 2 months ago. That just ain't going to work. However, the problem with red flag laws is that not all of them have that time frame set in. Again, another major concern. So as a veteran, if you use My Healthy Vet, you need to be aware that other people can access those. I know it says there's a privacy statement, but if there's a guardian in your life, if there's a spouse who has that in your life, I believe that even other federal agencies can access those things, including the DOD. So I would be very careful about what you tell people. And I'm not saying to lie, I'm not saying to don't get help, but be aware of how you phrase things, because what you say and what people hear can be very, very different at times. Let's talk about the mandated treatment part. As somebody who served in a capacity at the federal probation and parole level with mandated sex offenders, I can tell you firsthand that mandated treatment does not help anybody. Mandated residential care may help people in the long term, 90 days or more, 180 days, whatever that may be, for people's mental stability to actually have a quality evaluation, medication, and treatment of such chronic mental illnesses. But standard everyday mandated treatment is not helpful. It doesn't help the provider. People become argumentative in those instances, whether individually, one-on-one, or in a group setting. People can show up, and that's the mandate, is that they show up. They don't have to engage. They don't have to listen. They can be disruptive, and it benefits no one. You cannot mandate that people engage in treatment. It simply does not work, which is why when some veterans call in and they want an initial appointment, I say you have to be ready, because even if I'm ready, you may not be ready. You have to be there and be willing and open to work on things. People who have chronic mental illnesses, they're not always open and willing to work on things because in their mind, their reality is the truth. I don't know where we came up with this concept of my truth, relativism, whatever you want to call it. I have no clue. But in the old days, like 2010, if we had somebody come in and they said, this is my truth and my version of the story, we called them delusional because their reality didn't match everybody else's reality. So know that mandated treatment is not going to be helpful. The other concern is that, or at least they say it's a concern, is that even once paperwork is filed, and let's say it's a 14-day window, let's take a generic 14-day window until we go in front of a judge. The other side has to present evidence that you are unfit to possess a firearm. Within that 14-day window, you can still go buy a firearm, as you should be able to, because you have not been adjudicated, deemed, or evaluated to be any type of incompetent or unable to possess a firearm. So it's not a loophole, people. That's not a loophole. That's called the justice system and the correct process. The biggest issue with red flag laws and taking people's firearms away so early is that you are speculating about future behavior, and we cannot predict violent future behavior. It is impossible. We are human beings. We don't have the metrics for that. Even if we did, they'd be wrong. So to think that red flag laws are going to prevent violence, you are simply violating people's rights, and you are speculating as to future behavior. And personally, for me, I do not have a problem with that as a mental health provider, because I don't want to ever speculate about somebody's future behavior. I want the justice system to do its job, and unfortunately, sometimes that means that bad things have to happen before people lose their rights. There is zero reason to take away someone's rights because you're speculating about their behavior. We also have to throw in the fact that some people are biased or prejudiced. And so they may not like you because of the veteran status. They may not like you because of where you live, what you do for a living. I don't know. Pick anything at this point. People are so overly critical. But just because they are speculating about your behavior does not give the legal system the right to violate your Second Amendment rights. So please be very protective of those. Use careful words when you go talk to a provider. Use caution, really. I don't know that I would even recommend using the electronic database system that the government offers for your healthcare records. I would take a second look at the privacy and policy statement and the terms before you agree to those, and know that paper-based may be more difficult, that you may have to actually go in and get copies of your records, but if that helps keep you safe, then why not? The last, of course, is if you are having problems, actual suicidal ideation, homicidal ideation, you want to hurt people, then you do need to go see somebody and actually get help. And don't stop if they turn you away. You need to go back repeatedly. But the bottom line is that for the vast majority of you, red flag laws are simply a violation of your rights. They will continue to be that, and I hope that you write to your state legislature and let them know that you do not agree with those. Take care.